2 weeks after Pam Bondi was sworn in as Attorney General, she walked onto Fox News and made a statement that instantly caught the nation's attention. With cameras rolling, she said, "The list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients was sitting on my desk right now to review." A sentence like that doesn't just fade into the background, it explodes across headlines, social media feeds, and conversations everywhere. After years of speculation about Epstein's powerful network, here was the nation's top law enforcement officer suggesting she literally had the secrets in her hands. People waited, breath held, certain that earth-shattering revelations were about to surface. But just 6 days later, those expectations were shattered. Bondi followed through on her promise to release Epstein-related documents, but what she handed out left supporters stunned.
2 weeks after the Senate confirmed Pam Bondi as Attorney General, she told Fox News the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients was, quote, "sitting on my desk right now to review," end of quote. 6 days later, Bondi released binders of documents related to Epstein to MAGA influencers. But the documents she released were already publicly available. The absence of any client list led to a predictable, immense blowback. Attorney General Bondi then returned to Fox News, the mothership, and made another startling claim, that a whistleblower told her that the FBI withheld thousands of pages of documents, and then she promised the country would see the, quote, "full Epstein files." Yet, over the next 4 months, DOJ and FBI were silent on this issue until an unsigned July 7 memorandum was issued, finding that, quote, "systemic review revealed no incriminating client list." So what happened during the 4 months between Attorney General Bondi's sweeping claims in February and this July 7th memorandum? Our Judiciary Committee learned the embarrassing truth. We were contacted by a highly credible whistleblower describing Attorney General's pressure on FBI to quickly review and produce more Epstein documents as promised. For 2 weeks in late March, the FBI assigned approximately 1,000 personnel in its Information Management Division and hundreds of additional agents from the New York field office to work 24-hour shifts to review and produce more Epstein documents. These officials were told to, quote, "flag any records in which President Trump was mentioned." Essentially, agents were pulled out of their field from their work combating narcotics and violent crime to review this mountain of documents. Other important FBI work was effectively shut down, according to the whistleblower. Using tens of thousands of personnel hours at the expense of public safety for no other reason than to try to bolster baseless claims you've made is unconscionably reckless. President Trump has not helped the situation. Despite his administration continually making promises about transparency on Epstein and the existence of records that they have not produced, he is currently telling the country that it is all a, quote, "scam," unquote. Last week, President Trump posted on his personal social media site, and I quote, "My past supporters have bought into this BS, hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will," unquote, from President Trump. This is the way the president is talking about his own constituents, who are raising concerns about the very claims President Trump's campaign surrogates and administration officials have repeatedly raised. President Trump and Attorney General Bondi are directly responsible for the confusion and mistrust around Epstein's prosecution. Attorney General Bondi, in particular, owes both Congress and the American people the truth about Jeffrey Epstein, the whole truth and nothing less.
She gave binders of material to high-profile MAGA influencers, the very people who had been demanding transparency for years, only for it to become clear that these binders contained nothing new at all. They weren't secret client lists or hidden files, they were simply public documents that had already been available. In other words, she promised fireworks but delivered smoke, and the backlash was immediate. The uproar grew louder with every passing hour. People who had believed her words felt deceived. Social media erupted with outrage. Why had Bondi said she had something so explosive when the so-called release turned out to be recycled information? If this was supposed to be the big reveal, where was the substance? The credibility of the Attorney General herself was on the line. Instead of stepping back, Bondi doubled down. She returned once more to Fox News, the same platform where she had made her original bombshell claim, but this time she escalated. She told viewers that a whistleblower had come forward, alleging that the FBI itself was withholding thousands of pages of Epstein-related documents. Not only that, she went even further, promising that the American people would eventually see what she described as the full Epstein files. For those desperate for answers, this sounded like a turning point. If thousands of hidden pages existed, and if the Attorney General herself was promising to release them, surely some bombshell was around the corner. And yet after that dramatic promise, something strange happened. Silence. For 4 long months, from February to early July, there were no new announcements. The Department of Justice stayed quiet. The FBI said nothing. The buzz that had filled headlines just weeks earlier gave way to confusion. Supporters kept asking where the files were, when the release would happen, why promises seemed to have vanished into thin air. Then on July 7, the suspense finally ended, but not the way people expected. An unsigned memorandum surfaced, and its conclusion was blunt. A systemic review revealed no incriminating client list. Just like that, the promise collapsed. To many it seemed like the entire saga had been one long build-up to nothing. But behind the scenes, something far more troubling had taken place. The Senate Judiciary Committee, led by Senator Dick Durbin, revealed the embarrassing truth. A whistleblower, described as highly credible, came forward with details of what had really been happening during those silent months. The revelations painted a picture not of hidden client lists but of pressure, politics, and reckless decisions inside law enforcement. According to this whistleblower, Bondi had directly pressed the FBI to accelerate the review and production of Epstein documents. Determined to deliver on her Fox News promise, she pushed the Bureau into a massive urgent assignment. For 2 weeks in late March, nearly 1,000 personnel from the FBI's Information Management Division were pulled off their usual work. Hundreds of agents from the New York field office were added to the effort. Together they were told to operate in round-the-clock shifts. Their mission? Comb through a mountain of files and above all flag any records in which President Trump's name appeared. Think about what that means. Instead of focusing on violent crime, narcotics investigations, or national security threats, federal agents were ordered to spend tens of thousands of work hours chasing the possibility of an Epstein revelation that Bondi had publicly promised. Entire departments slowed down. Critical work meant to keep the public safe was sidelined in favor of a politically charged project. And in the end it produced no new revelations, no hidden client list, no explosive discovery, nothing that justified the extraordinary drain on resources. The whistleblower didn't mince words. Calling the effort unconscionably reckless, they emphasized how dangerous it was to divert so many skilled agents from urgent investigations. And when you look at the scale, it's hard to argue. The FBI isn't a limitless machine. Every reassignment has consequences, and in this case, those consequences meant real cases on narcotics and violent crime were slowed or shut down, leaving communities less protected. While Bondi's role in orchestrating this mess was significant, she wasn't the only one responsible. The president himself made things even murkier. On the one hand, his administration promised transparency, repeatedly suggesting that more records existed and that full disclosure was coming. On the other hand, Trump himself openly mocked the very people demanding answers. Just last week, he posted on his personal social media site, blasting his past supporters for believing in what he called BS. In his own words, "My past supporters have bought into this BS hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will." Imagine being one of those supporters, hearing administration officials promise files, hearing the Attorney General say she has the list, watching the FBI pulled into a frenzy, only to then be mocked by the president you believed. It's a contradiction that left even loyal followers disillusioned and distrustful. The administration raised expectations, fueled speculation, then dismissed it all as a scam. The result was chaos and mistrust, not just around Epstein's case, but around the very institutions tasked with delivering justice. When you step back, the story becomes bigger than one set of documents. It reveals how political promises can warp the priorities of law enforcement. It shows how credibility can evaporate when officials say one thing and deliver another. And it highlights the essential role of whistleblowers and congressional oversight in pulling back the curtain when secrecy and spin threaten to obscure the truth. Pam Bondi's repeated assurances, followed by recycled documents and reckless pressure on the FBI, eroded public confidence. The president's contradictory statements only deepened the confusion, and the American people were left to wonder if promises about something as high-profile as Epstein's files can evaporate like this. What else is being mishandled behind closed doors? In the end, the missing Epstein client list became a symbol of something larger: the danger of mixing politics with justice, the cost of using institutions as tools for theater, and the consequences of overpromising and under-delivering. Transparency matters, promises matter, and when those in power fail to honor them, the damage isn't just political, it's systemic. It ripples outward, undermining trust in government, weakening faith in law enforcement, and leaving citizens to question what, if anything, they can rely on. That's why this story is about more than just Epstein. It's about how leaders handle responsibility, how institutions respond to pressure, and how citizens should react when those in charge fail to live up to their own words. If anything, it's a reminder that accountability doesn't happen automatically. It requires vigilance, from whistleblowers, from investigators, and from the public itself. So what do we take away? That even in the most high-profile scandals, the truth can get buried under spin. That power can twist priorities until law enforcement is chasing political shadows instead of protecting people. And that it's up to all of us to demand better. If this breakdown gave you a clearer view of how politics and justice collided in the Epstein files saga, don't let the conversation stop here. Share this video, hit that like button, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines. Because when the truth gets buried, the only way to dig it out is to keep asking questions, and to never stop demanding answers.